Hello everyone, Tom here from itContracting, and welcome back to our video series on the technology and recruitment industry in Ireland. So it's coming to the end of the year, and this seems to be a bit of a trend for recruitment companies to look at, but we're going to be looking at where we see jobs being created in 2019. What technology areas in particular where we'll see more growth and potentially new opportunities. So I've concentrated on two technology areas in particular. Now, the first is a term and a technology that I'm sure pretty much all of you will have heard of, and may have a very strong understanding or only a cursory understanding, and that is blockchain. I can almost hear the sighs and the comments about blockchain already. However, I think there's some misunderstanding, for a lot of people in terms of what it actually is. People tend to think of blockchain and they tend to think of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Those are one application of blockchain technology. So just to give a bit of a high-level overview of what blockchain is. Blockchain is a type of distributed ledger with blocks of chronologically listed, cryptographically secured transactions, irrevocable and immutable, and shared and agreed by all participants in a network, whether that's two people or whether it's a whole organization or several organizations. So blockchain effectively allows organizations, individuals to securely make transactions between one another without the need for any kind of intermediary, whether that be a merchant services or payment services organization or a bank. Because each transaction is completely irrevocable, it can never be altered. It means it's far less chance of fraud. It's far less risky because it's going through far fewer points in a chain. So there's, as I said, there's no intermediary, and it's potentially much faster to make transactions and much more cost effective. So what typical job areas will blockchain and its applications create? Well, probably first and foremost, I think in its early days, because it's still a relatively young technology, is our architects and consultants. So the people actually going out there and building blockchain platforms and building blockchain applications for companies. The second are going to be software engineers and developers. Interestingly, if we start to see more development kits coming out, that's going to really, increase the capacity for software engineers to move into this. But people even working within traditional software engineering or software development areas, if they've got particularly strong skills in API development, for example, which seems to be very applicable to developing blockchain applications, they will start to see potentially a lot more opportunities in that area. The other interesting area is potentially management consultancy. So really people going in who might have a high-level IT management background or even architecture background, but going in and working with companies on a more business level to understand the application of blockchain, how it can benefit their business, how it can move them away from traditional platforms, perhaps in terms of, transactions, or how they manage logistics or supply chains, areas like that. So those are certainly three areas we'll start to see blockchain create jobs. However, what's really interesting is that because it's new, because there isn't any kind of formal qualification route into blockchain at the moment, it is open to pretty much anyone. So even if you're, working in a non-technology sector, so for example, if you're working as an economist or an accountant or working in law, these areas will start to see potential jobs being created for them and new career directions by blockchain, because, looking at how it's going to disrupt traditional economic models of how companies operate, or what the implications are for data risk and data privacy and the legal ramifications of blockchain will really start to potentially create jobs in the industry. Now, as mentioned earlier, I think blockchain has been kind of inextricably linked to cryptocurrencies. However, the applications of blockchain go far further than financial or currency applications. We will start to see blockchain being utilized by the healthcare sector, by manufacturing, by logistics, by the education sector, and across governments. it will really explode in terms of its applications. So, for example, in 2010 in the US, there were effectively 0 jobs being created in blockchain. There are now over 4,000 a year being created in blockchain, and that's only increasing. Now, the second area we're going to look at is digital ethics, privacy, and trust. Now, this is pretty pertinent. GDPR regulations came into force on the 25th of May 2018, and I think recent statistics show that somewhere around 1/3 of companies are still not actually GDPR compliant. Now, what does this all mean to you and me as consumers, as users of data, as users of social media and various other companies? So, as individuals, we now have more control over our personal data. We can request it from companies. We can ask to be forgotten, so we can ask for our data to be erased at any point. So this creates a lot of potential challenges for companies around how they store data, how they use data, how they process it, and how they communicate to their users. Above all, it's around presenting the challenge to companies now, building more trust in their relationships with their customers. Now, where do we see the jobs being created, or the continual job growth? So in 2017, 2018, we obviously had a lot of opportunities for people working consultancy and security, working around compliance, risk, governance, to go in and work with companies, often on a sort of project basis, to bring them into compliance to GDPR. What we will be seeing continued growth for and demand for are people to go in and do a lot of remedial work, working around infrastructure based on maybe audits, reviews that companies have done, where they've found potential vulnerabilities in networks. So we will be seeing quite a lot more demand for cybersecurity, data privacy experts, general data officers, data protection officers, people working in compliance and risk and governance, and a lot of subsets of jobs underneath that. So dedicated penetration testers, threat hunters, a lot of kind of exotic terms out there, but companies are really bolstering what they're doing in cybersecurity. So if there's really one area that's going to continue to be one of the biggest growth areas, is going to be cybersecurity. And a lot of that is coming off the back of GDPR and the general overall movement towards how we use and store and basically process data. And finally, just to give a bit of a rundown of a few other technology areas where we're going to be hearing a lot more about in 2019 and the future. So the first is AI, artificial intelligence. Now, it's a broad church and includes everything from Internet of Things to autonomous vehicles to robotics to drones, e-commerce. Huge growth area. The other areas are augmented reality and augmented analytics. I think one of the things to look out for potentially next year is if a certain Apple are going to be coming out with augmented reality developer kit, which could start to take things a lot more mainstream than we are seeing at the moment. More as a service offerings, so more moves towards a consumption-based bespoke approach to IT. So building on traditional platform as a service, software as a service, infrastructure as a service, we will see more around CRM as a service, application tracking systems as a service, you name it, it will move to that kind of model. And edge computing, so essentially a local processing layer at the edge of a network. So instead of data that's being produced being automatically sent to a large centralized data center, the edge operates like a mini data center or a mini cloud. And that concludes our roundup of some of the trends that we may see in technology and job creation in 2019. Thank you very much for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Links to our website are in the description below. Please leave us your comments and suggestions. We'd love to hear from you. And Merry Christmas. Thank you.